Today we are meeting Mridula, who has over 20 years experience in the early child learning. And because of that, she has started this brand called Scola, which primarily works with the values behind Montessori. I'm sure Mridula would be here and would be happy to tell us more about Scola and their values and how sustainable it is, and their idea of bringing up a sustainable generation. So, before I continue, I just would like to tell our viewers that feel free to ask us any questions. And this episode, especially, we will be because Mridula has experience in early child learning. She will be happy to answer any questions with regards to any doubts that you have, since most of you are homeschooling your children at home. So I think this would be a very interesting chat. Let me invite Mridula. You're waiting. Mridula, hi.
Hi. Hi,
Hi.
Shruti.
How are you?
Can you see me?
Yes.
I'm good.
Okay. Nice to meet you finally.
Yes, same here, although it's online.
Yes, I think now any sort of interaction is now going to be this way. So sadly, that's
True.
the way things are right now. So welcome to the Sustainability Network. And
Thank you.
as you know, we've been meeting some many amazing brands that Bonisoda has been associated with, and your brand is one such brand. We love your products. For me, it was as I tell people, for me, the brands that we keep at Golden Soda work with, we partner with, are all brands that I have personally used or experienced. And only after I'm satisfied, I approach them and say, hey, let's work together. So, from my experience with Scola was close to about 5 years ago, where I had to buy a gift for my best friend's son for his birthday. And I was so frustrated that everything was plastic or, so um, uneco-friendly. And I was desperate to give him something that is durable and was sustainable. And finally, I came across your brand. And the minute I saw the range of products that you had, and I said, we have to work with them. So I'm so glad we made that decision and became with you.
I'm glad to, yeah.
So
So
please,
great to be part.
pardon me?
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead, Shruti.
No, I just wanted to know that. So I told you my association, how I got
Yeah.
to know about Scola. But what is Scola's journey? How did that begin?
Sure. So we've been in the early education space for a very long time, for 20 years plus, via our B2B school company, and years of experience of working with preschool children with teacher training, as well as helping entrepreneurs setting up their own school. And all along, we've always found that the best way for children to learn is via activity based learning. And that's a given for most of us today. We understand that that's the highest form of play possible for a young child, especially between the age of 2 and 6. And that's what Scholar really focuses on. So from there was born a sort of desire to make sure that this also reaches homes, because a lot of our schools tell us that, great, you're giving us activity based learning, but can you help us take something for the child at home as well, where we can not just reduce screen time, but also ensure healthy play.
Yeah.
And hence we started designing Schola also from a thought of wanting to be a made in India brand, wanting to be something sustainable, which will help children learn on their own. So self-learning was the motto, and that's what we've always believed in with the Montessori principles. And we've tried to inculcate that into every Scholar toy possible. So that's really how we started.
That's lovely. What about your personal journey? How did you get into the education space?
Yeah, so it was a family-run business. My initial entry was just coincidental. My mother was running a manufacturing unit in our garage in a small little space,
Wow.
and I finished my MBA, and I decided I'll jump in and not take up my college offer. I
Okay.
finished my B school at Calcutta, at IIM Calcutta, and joined her in 2000. So it's been a very long time. And of course, as soon as I came in, I said, okay, no, you have to move out. We have to make a factory. This home learning won't work. So typical B school mindset. And it worked out well for us. My mother and I worked together for a very long time, and we are still friends. So
Oh, that's
yeah, it's
So
been
how
a
did
good
your
journey.
mom get into this? Was she a teacher? Was she involved in education herself?
So she's a very enterprising lady. And when I was grown up, I had finished my 10th. I'm the only child, and she had plenty of time on her hands. She wanted to start something on her own. This was back in 1992, and so she just went and did a bit of survey. A lot of her friends were teachers, and they kept telling her, "We don't get anything in the market." In those days,
Okay.
nothing was available, not even a jigsaw puzzle.
Yes.
And why don't you start something like this? And that's how she started. She's quite artistic. So she
Lovely.
started in our garage with a carpenter, one part-time painter, and she would sit and do the sketching and drawing. That's really how Kiddo began. So
Okay.
that's from 1992 onwards.
So truly handmade and
Yes.
truly sustainable in that sense. So, and I'm
Yeah.
sure at that point, this whole, I mean, even now there is a lot of misunderstanding on play learning. I mean, many parents think play is different and learning is different, education is different, but I know that Montessori says that it's the two together. So
Yeah.
it's still a new concept in most households now, but I'm sure when you started over 20 years ago, it would have been completely unknown. So was it a difficult task for you to make people understand?
Yeah, I think that's one reason we never went into the consumer space earlier on. We were always in the B2 school space. And
Okay.
schools themselves had just started realizing the importance of play in school itself, so let alone home. And yeah, Dr. Montessori's fundamental principle is that that work is play for the child, and we tend to differentiate work and play as an adult. For
Hmm.
us, work is something that has to have a defined outcome, whereas play is purposeless. For a child, it's just the opposite. The child's purpose is work and play. It's the same thing. As long as the child is busy, the child doesn't differentiate between what is work and what is play.
Yeah.
So, as long as the child has been purposefully engaged, and this is again, we come back to the same word very often, even in Scholar, to say purposeful engagement. It's what drives children to stay with the activity for a longer period of time. So when children work or play, whatever word you would like to use for it, whether it's sweeping the house or whether it's playing with something like blocks, it doesn't matter as long as the child sees a purpose in it.
Hmm.
But we tend to look at it with adult lens and say, oh, he's not doing anything, he's sweeping,
Yeah.
or he's only pushing the blocks around. He's not really playing, but that really is playing for the child. So we need to start
He's,
looking at play.
he or she is problem solving actually at that point, right?
Absolutely. And whatever, we really don't know what's the trigger that's happening at that point of time. And which brings us back to, if the toy is something that can lend purpose to the child, not our purpose, but the child's purpose of exploration, of thinking, of trying to figure something with that. And if the toy has a clear purpose, then children enjoy it a lot more, because then it becomes self-driven rather than driven by the parent or by the teacher.
Okay, that's very well put. The other thing Dr. Montessori, I'm sure, has said about working with natural material, right? Maybe, I don't
Yeah.
know, was plastic available then when she was uh, doing her research? I don't know. But right now, any parent can't, I mean, it's so difficult. Like, I have a 1-year-old, and it's so difficult to keep plastic toys or plastic. Any material away from her, like even if somebody gives her, and but why do you think Dr. Montessori suggested that the child needs to work with natural material?
I think in that sense, Europe has always been very for natural materials for a very long time. Wood was easily available those days. Renewable sources of wood were plenty. So I think it started from a availability of material. But what Dr. Montessori definitely noticed, and I think she consciously used it throughout her journey, is that children gravitate towards natural materials far more easily than they do towards synthetic. Whether it's metal or plastic, it doesn't matter which way it is. If you gave the choice an identical set of blocks in plastic and absolutely the same thing in wood, the child will pick up the two and drop the plastic if left to the child. It's a very natural instinct because they like the texture, they like the feel of the warmth of wood. So there's a lot of things. It's not a push. So it's just with the child, even if it's coir, fabric, sand, all of these are things that children love because it gives them a natural feel. So the child will gravitate towards that. And I think most early childhood educators recognize that and hence prefer wooden materials in school. Plastic is taken as an option only if the budgets are like really low and you just want to make do with something. If you're looking at long term, typically it would always be wood in a school.
Yes. So design and manufacturing plays a huge role. Of course, the knowledge of what Dr. Montessori had suggested, and you also combine a little bit of other educational theories as well. Like what?
Yes.
Can you tell me, please?
So the one thing that we have consciously done, even in our school curriculum as well as with Scholar Toys, is we've taken the Montessori principles, and obviously you cannot adapt them exactly to the same way that you would function in the school. A, because it's not necessary. Two, in school there are 30-40 children playing together at the same time. At home you can't budget for those things. I won't say playing, I'd say working together. So they're watching each other. There's a lot more happening in school. However, some of those principles can easily be brought home. It's not very difficult. So we've largely integrated what we call the self-learning component, which means Scholar Toys are not teaching tools. They are playing toys where children learn on their own without the parent having to direct every activity. So it's very what we call self-directed play to a large extent. And as long as the parent can initiate the play and say, look, this is one of the things that you can do with this toy, and then leave it completely to the child will figure a lot more by just practice. So Dr. Montessori's oft repeated things was the child will repeat things 30-40 times before the child gets bored and say, okay, now I'm ready for the next level. So Scholar has also been built with that in mind. With every toy that we have, typically we have 3-4 activities written. It's not just one. And this comes even as part of the instruction manual saying, okay, now if you're finished with activity 1 and it's taken 2 months for the child to just have fun with that activity and mastered that learning objective, then now it's time to move on to activity number 2. So the child keeps progressing along a certain learning track with just one given toy also. And this really defined our Scholar learning grid. So if you see Scholar, everything is used to be designed exactly as per the learning grid, which is age-wise and skill-wise. And we say, okay, in this age, this skill, this is what the child will learn, and then leave it to the child. So we're not pushing teaching via that, but it's the child will come to the right conclusions if the tool is right. That's how we look at it.
Yeah, so that's the question I had, because though toys are bracketed under a certain age group, I'm sure each child has their own different stages of their skills. So how does one parent decide this is the right toy for the right time, or how does one observe, or maybe even if it's the right time, it might take a little bit of time for the child to warm up for a toy. How does a parent tackle these various situations?
Yeah, so it is important to look at not just the age. Age is very indicative of the developmental stage of the child. So typically we call it a thin line between boredom and between frustration. So if it's too easy, the child will get bored, and if it's too tough, the child will get just frustrated and say, okay, this toy is not for me.
Yeah,
so
I notice it with my 1-year-old.
Yeah, so it's important also to not overdo things and introduce it too early as well, which is why we have a stage-wise mapping. And in Scholar, that we were very conscious of the fact, because that's how we work in school as well. Teachers typically give the next presentation only when the child is ready, and in school you know it. But at home, how does a mother or a father decide, okay, now this is the toy that I want to buy for my child? So which is where we gave the grid mapping to say this is enough guideline that you can follow. So if your child is 3 years old and you're looking at colors as a skill, here's the toy that you can buy. And the child might sail through it very quickly and then say, okay, then it's time for you to quickly introduce the next activity with that toy, because the child is already past that stage. So these are rough guidelines, and you will know it the minute the child you feel is not picking up the toy after playing with it for 7-8 times. Then you know, now I can do, like, let's say, a memory game with this toy or something else with this toy. So that's how you start engaging, and once you do that, the child will take over. But it's important to get that initial, just the initiation process is by the parent. So you get them started and then let them continue how they like.
Okay. So you mainly cater to the 2 to 6 age group, right?
Yes.
So
Very
could you
large.
just quickly run us through what are the major milestone skills that children go through during this period, and what are the things that we need to address? What kind, for an example, what kind of a toy they need to pick up at that point? I mean, I'm sure you can't list out all the kind of toys that you
Yeah.
have, but just for people to understand what skill is associated with what kind of toy, because there would be
Sure.
a stage where it's only language, or there might be a stage only for motor skills. So if you could run us through that as well.
Sure. So when they start young, there are two parallel streams which keep happening. When you notice in a young baby, there's a lot of grasping, there's a lot of larger motor skills which happen, the palmar grasp as we call it. But slowly, as you move towards the 2 to 6, the things that Scholar focuses on to a large extent, which is the right age for the child to start both language as well as sensorial development parallelly. So these are usually the first stage. So there's fine motor skill, there's language, and there's sensorial, all three of which run parallelly pretty much, and you have to do all of them as much as you can. So it's not like we'll finish one and then move on to the other. And then slowly, only when sensorial reaches a certain stage, sensorial includes your colors, shapes, sizes, dimensions, textures, everything which is a abstract property in the world around you, all of that is covered in sensorial. So when the child is about 3 plus is when maths becomes an extension of sensorial. So for us, senso maths is literally one area. We don't segregate it much. So sensorial sort of flows into arithmetic. But if you do arithmetic too early and the child has not had any exposure to sensorial, it's a little like a double promotion, and then a few things get skipped in the process. So it becomes a little challenging, and it's
For
not the
me,
right.
the minute I hear math, I would run away. I should have had Montessori when I was young.
Yeah, and we have both types of parents who say, okay, I hated maths, so I'm going to buy maths really early for my child, which is also not very advisable, because let the child go through the sensorial stages, and then if you see some of the first maths toys that Scholar starts with is always 2.5 plus, 3 plus is really when counting begins. It's not that the child can't do counting before that, but it's just that if the child has gone through length and width and height and all those things before counting, then it makes counting far more realistic in the child's mind. So the whole idea is to make learning real, not just 1, 2, 3, 4 as numbers. That doesn't serve the child any purpose, but the idea is to ensure that the child understands maths better as a whole, because maths is a very, very abstract area and not so easy to understand. So it's good for us to go through what we call the concrete to abstract route, which is the practical to theory. That's really what the entire Scholar Toys philosophy has been based on, that to say, let the child start with concrete learning and slowly he'll get to theoretical learning later. But the concrete, if it's done via self-directed play, then it makes a huge difference.
Okay. Now this is the sustainability network. So we'll have to come to the sustainable side of Scholar toys. So just tell us how, we know it's wood, but some people might feel conflicted. Oh, aren't you cutting down trees? Isn't wood also not a great option to be sustainable? Of course, I also we do toy swaps. My friend and I, we do toy swaps. I think that's probably the best sustainable way. We kind of plan, you buy this, we buy that, we can swap. But tell us about how the sourcing happens, who makes the toys, and who designs them, who are they craftsmen, are they handmade or machine made? Could you just give us more details about the toys?
Sure. So Scholar is entirely manufactured by us in-house. When I say in-house, it's our parent company, Kiddo Enterprises, which is the manufacturer for Scholar Toys, which is our B2 School division. Everything in Scholar is the wood, and all of them are bought from renewable resources. So we are one of the few who started very early. I think just right when we started in 2000, when we started our factory. Ever since then, we've always been strong proponents of organic dyes, which in those days were very difficult to source. Today, it's a lot more easier to get safe colors. We went through a lot of difficulty in the early 2000s to make every one of our products child safe. And a couple of paint companies actually started doing it because we pushed them so hard to say toy. He's like, why do toys need to have such
Yeah.
expensive things? But we were very particular. We had also started exporting heavily, and we were very conscious. A lot of people were making different materials for export and different materials for Indian children, which really upset us a lot at that
Yes,
time to
yes.
say, if you're doing that, just do it for everybody or don't do it for anybody. So we started our journey on this route very, very long back. And we experimented with a lot of the organic dyes and the water-based colors and a lot of other things before we reached where we are today. And the entire wood is renewable wood. All our colors are child safe, EN71 certified. We are trying more and more to move into water-based colors other than the safe dye. So a lot of it right now is almost the entire range is water-based colors, which is really sustainable in the long run, and it's really prettier also. So all in all, plus time for right now for manufacturing in that sense. We have about 200 plus people in our factory working there, predominantly women. So we are a very, very women centric industry. 70% of our workforce is women. Whether it be in manufacturing or in teacher training or in design, I think we have very few men in the entire organization compared to the women. So it's a lot of them work in curriculum development, in design. Everything is in-house in Scholar. And everything is like, we try to be innovative in our approach in terms of making the designs child-centric as well as a little funkier in some ways. So we try and satisfy all the worlds. And yeah, I think for us, the guiding light is, does the child enjoy the toy? And when we hear back from get Scholar feedback, we're very thrilled when we say the child enjoyed more than the parent. We're like very thrilled when we hear the child really enjoyed playing with the toy.
So do you have like
So
once a prototype is done, do you like give it to some children in that age group just to try it out and see if they are engaged with it?
yeah, typically we do wait. It goes through quite a few iterations before we arrive at the final in terms of the size, the colors. We spend a hell of a lot of money on prototyping alone because it's never perfect. Then no, I didn't like
Yes.
this. The child didn't like that. The grip was not all right, and we try to make sure that the child's hands are always right for every toy. So yeah, it goes through quite a few rounds of aesthetic as well as functional design changes before we arrive at the final product. So to a large extent, our 2 to 4 range is very, very independent play. To a large extent, it's very self-directed and things that children can do alone, because that is the stage that children like to do what they call lone play in a sense, or parallel play. It's not that I'll share my toy. I like my friend to be playing, but let her play with her toy
Yeah.
and I'll play with my toy.
Yeah. Yeah.
But slowly, when they go to 4, is when the social play starts, where I want to
Yes.
play snake and ladder with my friend, that kind of play. So over the 4 to 6 range, we have moved a little more towards the gaming side of things. So it's really at
Okay.
5 plus that gaming as a thing becomes more popular for us as well, where we know children will enjoy playing a game with their parent or with a friend. And that's still, they are 5 below. It's a little more of skill building and more of self-directed and self-play. And at 5 plus, some of the late Scholar toys, which is for the 6 plus, 7 plus, like a new launch which we're going to have is like a Aeroline game where there's a die roll and children go from city to city, which is more a
Wow.
gaming kind of thing. Yeah.
So do you have plans for the whole family to play together as well?
Yeah, I think Aeroline is going to be a very exciting game. Your maths doubts will definitely be cleared with
Okay.
the
We should definitely pick one of that soon once it's
yeah.
out. So again, coming back to sustainability, besides the fact that you are making toys that are sustainable, how is Cola enabling a generation that is sensitive to sustainability?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think one of the things that you started this conversation with was the choice between plastic toys and wooden
Yes.
toys. And the one thing that we have seen is, yes, plastic toys in some cases, if you make the same set of blocks, might be slightly cheaper. Scholar is not in the very high priced range. It's still a fairly affordable toy in most
Yeah, but
cases,
you
unless the
just justified as well the cost that is involved with terms
yeah,
of
so that's
natural
one thing.
colors and things
Yeah,
like that. So
but
the cost is justified.
absolutely. Yeah, and it's not just the cost, it's also the mindset of the child. So, the one thing that we constantly, and we wrote about this a lot in our early days, is when you buy a plastic toy, what happens is for us, also when you buy cheaper clothes, which are, let's say, 100 rupees or so, it's not that the price is low, it's just that you stop having value for it. And you're like, okay, you wear it 2 times, and then you're also, okay, it's value for money, 3 times, 4 times, I'm done. It tore, but it doesn't matter because I got back what I paid for. So it's a very value for money equation. But when you keep buying cheaper toys and throwing it away when your child just breaks it, uh, with, let's say, it's a sasta plastic toy, we know which country most of that comes from, but
China.
you tend to throw it away in 2 days, and your child starts thinking, hey, it's fine to throw things.
Yeah.
So you're building non-sustainability from the time the child is born by giving them cheaper materials, which you're okay with them breaking in a day because it was cheap. Instead of the Europeans are very strong on the thought process of what they call generational toys. You
Yes.
literally pass it on from father to child to grandchild, and those are toys that have value, they're well made, and yeah, they don't break easily, so yes, they can be passed on. And then the child starts realizing, oh, after I've used it, here's what I can do with the child. And that's a thought process that you're building very early in the child, to take care of your toy, make sure it's well kept. And that's what sustainability is all about. It's
Yes.
about preservation, and you buy less, use less, and make sure it's a good quality thing so that it lasts longer and it can be passed on when you're done with it. I think that inculcates sustainability in a child as a thought process very early, and I think of course, be it being natural material as well as long lasting, is something that children start learning to appreciate very, very early. So it's not just about the play alone, it's about inculcating a sustainable lifestyle very early in life.
No, I think you have put it very well because this use and throw culture has, I think it's slowly even creeping into our lives. And if we start, showing that culture very early to a child, I think it
Yeah.
really would affect them as they grow older. And I never thought of it in that way until you put it so well right now. And I actually tell people that these kind of durable toys, you might think twice, okay, should I invest in it, or maybe my child will outgrow it soon. But I keep telling people, if you're having a second child, planning to have a second child, just keep it because it's going to last long and will be well kept, and your second child as well is going to use it. Or you, as I do, I kind of pass things around within family and friends and things like that. So actually, that one toy actually has a very long life besides the person who's just using it. So I think that's again a part of sustainability, because sharing is part of that. You share, or you
Absolutely.
pass on something to your younger sibling or things like that. You kind of allow the child to be generous, and that's an important thing that is required to be sustainable. And I think with Scholar Toys, it's very easy to be generous and that way. So another question I had: many parents are now homeschooling their children right now. In fact, I should be saying this. I think the Schola sales have kind of boosted for us at Goli Soda. That even though we are under lockdown, it's almost like essentials that many parents are picking them up to keep the child engaged. So I just wanted to know, besides, of course, picking up a Schola toy, from your experience in early child learning education, what must parents do right now? Having children at home full time, they're not probably as social as they were before. So how to keep them engaged at this
Sure.
point? Yeah.
Yeah. So I think from a learning perspective, we've been, of course, in the last 3 months very busy to try and come up with a home learning solution for parents. So we have launched small little units everywhere. So in the course of these 3 months, we have figured a lot of things that children can learn in the house, which school is a great support system, and if it was happening there, you would not have to have done it at home. But there are small things that you can do. What you will always miss is, of course, peer learning that can't be replicated in the house. You can't have a group of children over there. So, barring that one element, which of course contributes to a very large percentage of learning. So, yes, this is not a permanent solution, that we need to go back at some point and have children interact with other children as well, which is where they do a lot of learning. But other than that, there's a lot of if you call it academic learning or intellectual learning or life skills learning, all of those can really be done at home without too much of a drive from the parent. If you, especially when the child is young, if your little ones, which are especially just two and between 2 and 3, if you can get them started on a journey of being busy at home, but with a purpose always. So if you can create a set of tasks which actually have output and not just created because you want to keep your child occupied, yes, it is there in our heads, but if you can create it in a way where the child's work is being translated into something that the child can see, then children stay engaged in that activity for a very long time. A small example of that would be just peeling boiled potatoes is great, but when you actually use those potatoes in cooking and get the child to help you, the child will willingly peel potatoes next time. So that's the difference between just doing it as an activity and actually using it. So if you give the child a task which says every day keep the milk basket outside, or this is your job, the child will do it willingly because the child knows there's a purpose. Sweeping, I think, is the greatest exercise of all time,
Oh, they
which
love
is
it.
nothing beats it. Yeah. And what they don't like is a clean house. So often we clean up our house and say, no, now you're ready for sweeping. They hate that. They want to see the dirt moving on the floor. And sometimes you see children, they'll pick up anything that they find around the house, dried leaves or some toys, and they'll start sweeping. They'll throw it on the floor and then start sweeping, because the whole purpose of sweeping for them was to see something move.
Yes.
Their purpose is not to clean the house. That's your purpose. Again, when we say purposeful, please don't look at it from the eyes of the adult. Your purpose is to clean, but the child's purpose is to see something move and say, I did it. And if you can give that I did it feeling to the child often enough, then the child is not going to bother you with saying I'm bored anymore. And you don't even have to reduce screen time, voluntarily. They'll do it on their own, as long as there is something that they have their routine, they have what they have to do. They'll fold their bed sheets very, very badly, and you have to be ready to accept that. So as long as you can, say all this is your work, and you close your eyes to what you think is the defined output and let them have their own output, the child is going to be learning every second. But it is difficult for all of us as parents to start thinking. But if we can even make a small start in that direction, it will really benefit the child and you. So you won't be
Yes,
as
and
bothered
yeah,
as.
you're sharing your tasks, especially right now when most of us are doing most of the housework, or we need to split our time between work and the housework. These are good ways to keep the child
Yeah,
engaged, at the same time helping you in little small ways as well. In fact,
yeah,
uh, sometimes I hear parents, "You, Pavam, why are you making the child do all this?" But they don't realize that they're actually learning something. Else. They find it far more.
yeah.
For us, it might be a mundane task,
Yeah,
but for
I
them,
keep
it is
telling
something very
parents that
exciting. Yeah.
we keep telling our teachers that your kindness will kill the child. Don't be kind to the child. The child knows what they want, and let them be. They're enjoying the hard work. Let them work hard. They love working hard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and it will
It's
also get them to understand that you need to take care. I think, and the other problem most of us adults are facing right now, we are so used to letting others do our work. And now when we have to go back to do that, there is a sense of, oh my God, but I think once a child learns that these are the things that it requires to, lead a life, that is, it's like brushing your
yeah.
teeth and washing yourself, even like running a house or doing things in the house is part of your life skills that are necessary. So thank you for that advice. And I think this talk has been very interesting for most parents and people who are interested in sustainability, because I feel even though you have been here for almost 20 years, there's still a lot that is required in the space of child learning. I think having sustainable toys, when you see so many toy shops around with these plastics and electronic toys in such large numbers, it's so hard to find things that are sustainable. So I wish you make more and more different kind of toys and flood the market with Scholar toys and let parents choose you over other kind of toys for their children. So thank you so much for this conversation. But before I leave you, uh, I need to ask a question that I'm asking all my guests. So you have already told me that Schola is working uh, on homeschooling toys. So that's the kind
Yeah.
of realization you've had from this lockdown. But what I'm asking most people, of course, you've answered the professional side of what the lockdown has taught you. But personally, what is that? Because all of us are going through various things during this period. It's some of them have opened their eyes to realize that maybe this is the time to be sustainable, and that's
Yes.
one of the reason why we are doing these talks. So in case somebody is still in the borderline of thinking, okay, maybe I need to lead a sustainable life, or at least take one step forward, how do I go about? And we're having these conversations to inspire these people. So what is that you are going through, or what have you gone through, or what is that that you've realized during this period of lockdown?
Yeah, I think professionally, definitely, as you said, it was a clear-cut answer for us. There are the first 15 days we were like, oh my God, life has come to a halt. We just don't know what's going to happen, and we run a manufacturing industry, so that's not work from home. We have got to be there in
Yes.
the factory to make things happen. So it was disastrous. Thankfully, factory is back to functioning, and we're able to manufacture now. And but we've had to pivot around as far as professional work goes. There are not going to be no schools this year, so we had to take learning home, for example, which within a month, I think in 30 days, I don't think in 20 years we have done this. In 30 days we had to change our entire school learning solution to something that the schools can take home. And we are just on the verge of doing a launch of our home learning solutions as well. Scholar has seen a great spurt, which has been very good professionally, as you said. I think parents are seeing their children play in front of their eyes for the
Yes.
first time and understanding play better in a sense. Personally, I think the first few days were definitely like, oh, it's like a holiday a little bit, but okay, it'll pass. It's going to get over. Next week, we'll be back at work. So let's enjoy it while it lasts. But I think over a period of time, we realize this is going to be a lifestyle change that we all have to make permanently. I think a lot of us have had health issues because of lack of exercise and because of various other things during this lockdown, which automatically makes you think, okay, what can I change in my life?
Yes.
I think, we're all going towards making sure eating healthier is a bet, has to be there. It's not no longer an option. Like, okay,
And now
fine,
that most of
once
us
we
are
wait.
cooking ourselves at home, I think we are also more
And
aware what
we
goes
didn't
into our
think,
food, and we are eating
yeah,
out
we didn't
less.
know.
Yes.
Absolutely. And we actually enjoying eating our own food. I didn't think that they would happen very easily. I'm like, okay, this is manageable. It's not that bad.
Yes.
So yeah, I think we're here for a permanent lifestyle change for all of us, every one of us personally, and we're more conscious of our children's health, our children's learning in a better way, and learning not necessarily as a report card, but learning life skills, learning a lot of other things. I think it's a great time for stores like Goli Soda, and so I think you all have been ahead in the journey in terms of sustainability, and I think it's time for everybody to adopt to a lot more, and I think it feels a lot more healthier. Just as a touch feel factor itself is so much different. So yeah, so I hope to see Goli Soda expanding into a lot more places. I think it's the need
Thank
of
you.
the hour.
Thank you. Thank you, because this is again one of the reasons. Because similar, even for us, similarly in Goli Soda, the first few days were kind of a shock for us professionally. Oh my God, what are we going to do? How are we going to pay our salaries. So many people are dependent on us, and but thankfully we decided, okay, we are an essential. Most of our products are essentials. We have thankfully a base in online. We need to get things going. So we also had to rework the way we work. Okay, so if we can't come to the office and do this, how can we take everything online, including making sure our staff are safe, work from home. And we realized, and we wanted to make sure, like people like me who are so used to having, working with natural detergents and other products, I can't imagine going to a nearby supermarket to pick up the regular chemical based products. So I was thinking, oh my God, there are going to be many people like us who need
Yeah.
essentials. We have to ensure that somehow we need to reach out. So even now, even though Chennai is back to being in an intense lockdown, thankfully, because of our delivery partners, we are able to deliver essentials. And through that, we've realized many people are making the switch, whether it's composting or changing to a menstrual pad, cloth menstrual pad.
Yes.
Small steps they're taking, or shifting to a natural detergent. So we have seen a lot of positivity in that sense coming out of people during this period. And we hope that this is something in the long run and not something temporary, and this should be the new normal. And as I said, Scola too is something that is doing well. People are wanting your products to keep their child engaged because they can't step out to keep them engaged. So for us too, it's been quite different, but it's a huge learning period for us as well. So thank you
Yeah.
so much, Mridula. I really enjoyed this talk with you. And
Yeah, my
as I said,
pleasure.
I hope to see Scola more and more, even in the biggest of the biggest toy shops in the middle of all the electronics and plastics, and people choose Scola over that. So thank you,
Thank,
and
thank you
hope
so
to see
much.
you once again some other time. Bye bye.
Sure. Bye. See you.
So, thank you for this episode. Somebody said the sandpaper toy is not available. We'll check that if it's available in our store. So, for those of you who are new right now for our chat, Goli Soda you can buy directly from our store in Alva Pet. Right now, Chennai is under a strict lockdown, but you can call our customer care number, and if it's an essential, we can definitely deliver them to you. But after the 5th, we are back to fully running. But for safety reasons, only by appointment, you can call us, and you can place our order, and we ensure a door delivery, or you can pick up the products from us. And this is for our Chennai customers, and for those who are across India, our products are available on www.golisodastore.com. Some of our products are also available on Amazon and Flipkart, so do check us out. And if you require anything else, we are always available on our social media pages, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. Any doubts on how something has to work, because some ways to shift into a sustainable lifestyle requires a little bit of learning and education. So we are always here to help you through that to lead a sustainable life. Thank you so much for watching. And tomorrow we will be meeting Fakra from Nitise, another interesting person and a beautiful brand. I love the name Nitise. They make some beautiful and very nice personal care products, and that is tomorrow. And our last episode for this series would be I Was a Sari. We will be meeting Stefano, and with that this series will end, and we'll be back soon with the next series very soon. So thank you so much for watching, and if you missed out on the live or you're watching midway, do catch the whole talk on IGTV or on YouTube on the Guli Soda channel. Thank you and have a great night. Bye.